I want to talk to you about John White and John Black. Both are enjoying the summer before their senior year of high school. They live on opposite sides of town, but their records at the local high school are almost identical. If you chart their success on a graph, the lines are basically right on top of each other. John White is the quarterback of the football team and vice president of the student body. He makes straight A's and has a high SAT score. John Black is the star running back on the football team and was elected president of the student body. He also makes straight A's and he also has a high SAT score. They've been tracking along at the same trajectory and pace, but at some point, John White's trajectory spikes upward. John Black stays the same, then levels off, and ultimately it drops off. Down the road, we look at the achievements of these two young men whose resumes looked almost identical through high school, and we see this huge gap. I often ask people, what accounts for this gap? The answer I often hear is racism. Now, racism is real and probably plays a part in this, but I think there's another explanation. We can find it by asking what happened when these two lines diverged. I think I know. One day, John White's father walks down the driveway to see what's in the mailbox. A neighbor driving by pulls over and says, "Hey, I'm hearing really great things about your son and all that he's achieving over at the high school. You must be so proud of him. Has he decided where he wants to go to college?" "Yes," the father replies. "He wants to go to State. He's been wearing State t-shirts and sweatshirts since he was a little boy. He's always wanted to go there." "That's great," the neighbor says. "Is he planning to play football there?" "No, this coming season at the high school will be the end of his football playing. When he gets to State, he just wants to be a student." "There's nothing wrong with that," the neighbor said. "Playing big-time college football is like a job. Does he know what he wants to study?" "Yes," the father replies. "He wants to study business, and State has one of the top business schools in the country." "They certainly do. One of my fraternity brothers is on the faculty there," the neighbor says. "Have y'all been down there to visit?" "Not yet. I hope to take him down there sometime this summer." "That's great. Let me know when you're going, and I'll connect you to my buddy. I'm sure he would be happy to meet with John and tell him all about the business school." "Wow, that would be fantastic," the dad says. "Thank you." "And what's Johnny doing this summer?" The dad replies he's lifeguarding at the pool. That's what he's done the last few summers to make money. "That's good, but shouldn't he be doing an internship somewhere?" "You say he wants to study business. What does he want to do with a business degree?" "He says he wants to run a company one day," the dad says. "Then he should be interning at a company. Have him give me a call tonight. I can arrange an internship for him at the company where I work. I'll make sure he has a great experience. In fact, I'll have him intern for me, and I'll introduce him to people who can teach him all about the aspects of the business that we run and can be very helpful to him when he's ready to start his career." "Wow, that would be awesome," the dad says. John White is offered a great opportunity, and he takes full advantage of it. A couple of weeks later, John and his dad are ready to go down and visit State. They do so and they meet with their neighbor's friend at the business school. Professor Franklin is very helpful. After he learns about John's grades and SAT scores, he lets him in on a little bit of a secret. Typically, he says, students apply during their sophomore year to get into the business school, but some students are admitted into the business school along with their regular undergraduate admission. Given your academic record, I think you'd be a good candidate for the pre-admit. When you're putting your application together this fall, reach out to me and I'll walk you through the process. And after you get in, keep in touch with me so I can help you take advantage of the resources that we have here. John applies, gets into the business school, and on his first day of college, he visits Professor Franklin. "John, I'm glad that you came to see me. I have some advice for you." Professor Franklin tells him he should take a certain class during his first semester. The class is usually taken by juniors, but it's not that difficult. John can ace it. And if he takes that class, he'll be able to join a certain club. And if he joins that club, he can attend a certain conference and start building his network. And if he goes to that conference, he can participate in a business plan competition, and on and on and on it goes. Later in the semester, folks in this network John is building give him some guidance and help him find a great internship for the following summer. So you can see the wonderful support that he's receiving. Summer internship before his senior year of high school, the mentorship of a neighbor, introductions to other people at his internship who can be helpful, introduction to a professor at the university he helps to attend, admissions advice from the professor, academic advice from the professor, advice to take a certain class, join a certain club, attend a certain conference, more internships through college, more opportunities to meet people who will be helpful to him. You get the picture. Now let's talk about John Black. Actually, we don't need to talk about John Black. He'll be fine. That's the position so many people take regarding John Black and his future. We don't need to worry about him. He'll be fine. This line, John Black's, starts leveling off at the same time he notices the kind of opportunities that his friend John White is being offered, but are not being offered to him. And his line drops off when John Black realizes that his hard work alone, and he's a really hard worker, can't compete with the contributions of John White's growing community of supporters. So why does the Institute exist? To bridge this gap. If John White gets great internships, we make sure John Black gets great internships. If John White is introduced to people who can guide him, we make sure John Black is introduced to people who can guide him. If John White gets important academic and career advice, we make sure John Black gets important academic and career advice. If John White has someone advocating for him, we make sure John Black has someone advocating for him. And what are the results of this work we're doing to bridge this gap? We'll show you in just a minute. But first, I need to tell you, this problem is not new. In 1910, W.E.B. Du Bois wrote, "There are a great many people who wish to help good causes in the world, who wish us well, and who with equal frankness decline to contribute to our work. They say plainly, 'We are not interested in giving black boys college training. We think that the class of Negroes who have reached the plane where they can profit by such higher training have also reached a plane where they do not need outside aid. Such people, white or black, can be left to themselves to make their own way in the world.' They say, 'We're interested in the submerged classes of those poor people who are struggling up out of the depths. Such people we want to help, but on the other hand, while theoretically we would be glad to help all people to a broader vision, yet on account of limited ability, we are obliged to confine ourselves to cases of pressing necessity. Therefore, we cannot give to the Negro college work.'" Now, I don't like to be cynical, but I have to tell you what I think about this. I think there are some philanthropists who don't really care about improving the lives of black people, but they want to appear as if they do. What better way to do that than by emphasizing support for people who have very little chance of taking advantage of it while starving the people who can? Now, if anyone thinks I'm suggesting that we should ignore those who are disadvantaged, I need to disabuse you of that notion. In fact, I can go toe-to-toe with just about anybody in regard to what I've done for the disadvantaged. But what I'm arguing is that we also cannot afford to ignore the young people who have the potential to make the greatest difference in the world. I think it's a crying shame to have talented young men like the ones we have in the Institute fighting with one hand tied behind their backs or racing with one leg. I can't say I'll be doing this work for the rest of my life because my wife might drag me off to the beach one day and not let me leave. But as long as I can, I'll be dedicated to helping the young men who can make the biggest difference in the world. Young men who will work hard to bring glory to God and blessing to God's people. Thank you for being part of this fight with me. I promised you I would share some of the results of our efforts to recognize, reward, and support some of the best and brightest young African American men in this country. Here are a few examples of what our alumni have done. Pastors, teachers and college professors, lawyers, doctors, accountants, Wall Street analysts, entrepreneurs, nonprofit executives, musicians and actors, a judge, Rhodes Scholars, Fulbright Scholars, Truman Scholars, PhDs, MDs, JDs, you name it.